I don't think education and university are the same thing.
They say if you don't go to university, then you're not educating yourself. The main takeaway I see people getting from university is not so much the degree and the piece of paper at the end. It's a network, but what I'd also say is it's the ability to learn how to learn. And that's when I realized society's expectations mean nothing, but it's when you totally disregard what people think about you. That's when your learning begins. My name is Adnaan Jassat. I'm the founder and CEO of ThrillerME. ThrillerME is the largest marketplace for sneakers, streetwear accessories in the Middle East. And we work with some of the biggest celebrity endorsers that you can think of. We work with names such as Jason Derulo, Post Malone, Sway Lee, the Migos group. I grew up in Dubai. I think Dubai is a fantastic place to cultivate and grow as a young man, especially in terms of business. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he said that his brother was going to university. I said, okay, that's fantastic. That's amazing. What is he studying? He said his degree was West African Lesbian Poetry.
If I were going to hire someone,
Yeah.
I had two candidates, and one of them has no degree, and one of them has a degree in lesbian underwater basket weaving, I will hire the person without the degree because I'm like, you weren't stupid enough to waste
It's ridiculous when you think of it.
something like this stupid.
You can go to clubs and you can, go rent cars and you can go with girls and you can do all that. My question is why? You don't need fun as a young man. You don't need fun. You need purpose, right? You need discipline. You need diligence. You need to find what you're good at and spend the rest of your life doing it. That's what you need.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, I'd like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. On today's episode, we've got on another brilliant guest. He is a young entrepreneur. He is the founder and owner of ThrillerME, and this is Adnaan Jassat. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Zuby. Good to meet you.
Great to meet you too, man. No doubt, man. Adnaan, I've done a very brief intro there, but for my listeners around the world, please introduce yourself and tell them what you're about.
Yeah. So my name is Adnaan Jassat. I'm the founder and CEO of ThrillerME. ThrillerME is the largest marketplace for sneakers, streetwear accessories in the Middle East. I also founded multiple other companies and startups in the UAE, Middle East, South Africa, Canada, etc. But my current startup at the moment is ThrillerME or ThrillerME Middle East. And we the regions. We started about 3 years ago, and today we are the region's #1 pioneer marketplace for accessories, streetwear, sneakers, watches, handbags, anything you can think of that's collectible. We're the number one marketplace. We've got about 55,000 users at the moment. We span across 30 countries in the Middle East as well as Africa. And we work with some of the biggest celebrity endorsers that you can think of. We work with names such as Jason Derulo, Post Malone, Sway Lee, the Migos group, on and on and on. We work across different talent groups. We work in the music sector. We work in the fitness sector. We work in the beauty sector, etc. And that's a brief description.
Awesome. Well, firstly, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
No doubt, man. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you from?
So I'm from South Africa. Currently, I just turned 22. I was 21. About 3 weeks ago, I just turned 22.
Happy belated.
Thank you. And I grew up in Dubai. I think Dubai is a fantastic place to cultivate and grow as a young man, especially in terms of business. Things are so easy. Things are so flexible. You don't have to jump through too many hoops to start a business, to grow a business. And we had a discussion before. I told you I'm in and out of South Africa and Dubai, and they both have their pros and cons. But what I like about Dubai, which is where we're shooting this podcast now, is Dubai has made it such a cohesive hub for people who want to start, grow businesses, especially online businesses. There's not much legislation. There's not much regulation. It's very easy for someone, even a young guy, someone who's watching this is 19 or 20, to come here and actually start a full-fledged, respectable online e-commerce business. Even if you're looking to go in the retail sector, Dubai, I think, is a hub for business. So I think if you're looking to start a business, Dubai is a fantastic place. That's where I am. But I mean, there's pros and cons like every place.
Of course. What was it like growing up in Dubai, actually?
Dubai is interesting. Growing up, I guess it's strange in the sense that it's so safe. It's sort of like a bubble that when you go anywhere else, you feel a bit out of place. Because when you come to Dubai, you don't have to worry about too much. You can drive where you want to. You can eat where you want to. You can go out late at night, especially as a female. It's very safe. When you go to other countries, I guess you feel that sense of that something could happen. You're always on edge. Maybe you're a bit paranoid when you go to other places. So Dubai is very nice in that sense growing up. But I think as you get older and depending on your set of values, you have to choose what you value, right? So if you value safety, then Dubai is definitely the place for you. If you value other things, if you value freedom and democracy, then obviously it's not the place for you. Then you've got to make your decision. But growing up, I think it's a fantastic place to grow up. But again, like I said, it's a bubble. So you've got to make the decision to actually go out there and explore, because the rest of the world is not like Dubai.
Yes. And so your family is originally from South Africa.
That's right.
Okay. So South Africa and Johannesburg, you said.
Correct.
Right? So Johannesburg and Dubai, those are two very, very different cities.
Yes.
What was it like growing up, kind of doing that back and forth between the two, especially given what you were just saying about safety and security? Because Johannesburg, unfortunately, I've actually been there a couple of times, but it doesn't have the best reputation for safety. It's known to be somewhere with quite a lot of crime. And then Dubai is one of the safest cities in the entire world. So I'm kind of curious, less so, I mean, I guess you can speak as how it is as an adult, but particularly when you were younger, growing up and kind of going back and forth between those two, was that strange? Were there any particular sort of safeguards you had to take or conversations you had to have with your parents or anything like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Because it's sort of polar opposites. Dubai is so safe, and then South Africa on the other end is so dangerous. I guess the main thing is, look, when we leave Dubai, the moment you're out of Dubai airspace, that sort of paranoid switch turns on in your head. You know, it's like, watch out, you know, because as soon as you land, you're on edge. You're looking at every guy that comes next to you, who walks next to you, who might approach you. And as soon as you land, as soon as you get out of the airport, then you got to get guards, right? Which is so different to here, because when you're here, you don't even think about that. So you land, as soon as you land, you got to get your car, you get guards, and then you sort of go in a convoy to your house. It's like the basic things we take for granted, like driving from the airport to your house. You can't even do that. Right? It's so unsafe. So when you get there, like I said, that switch sort of turns on. You got to make sure you're safe. You got to make sure you got some sort of protection, whether it's your own or external. And then even when you get to your house, then the security booms open up, and then the fences switch off, and you know, it's just so many different mechanisms and things, that hoops that you got to jump to make sure that you and your family are safe. So it's definitely it's a massive switch compared to Dubai, because in Dubai you're so safe. There it's so dangerous that your mindset totally has to shift. And if you have the Dubai mindset in South Africa, you're going to get killed, right? You just think you can walk at night and go drive whenever you want, and there's no such thing as a dangerous area, because I don't think there are any dangerous areas. There are definitely, like most places in the world, dangerous areas that you just don't go. They're off limits. So you got to have the sort of perspicacity to say, okay, this is where I am and this is what I got to do. And I think if you do that, you'll be fine, like in most countries. But the switch is phenomenal. But there's pros and cons. I don't go back there all the time, because there isn't something great about the country. There's fantastic things about the country. But again, you just got to be on edge, and you got to be aware and say, okay, I'm in South Africa, let me follow South African rules and protocols. And I'm in Dubai, okay, let me follow Dubai protocols.
Yeah. What do you love about South Africa?
Many things. Number one thing I love is the freedom. It allows you tremendous amounts of freedom in terms of freedom of speech, movement, expression, religion. I think we have the most number of religions in South Africa than anywhere else in the world, just because we're so vast and accommodating in terms of how people can practice their religion openly and freely. It's just the people, the culture, the constitution, the wildlife, the nature, the scenery. I can go on and on. South Africa is a fantastic, beautiful place. I encourage everyone who's watching to go and visit at least once. The only downside that we have is the crime. Yeah, that's the only downside. If I say this all the time, if crime didn't exist in South Africa would be the number one place in the world to visit. At least for me, you know, it's you don't realize how many freedoms and privileges and rights you are allowed in South Africa until you leave, right? I guess it's the same with most Western countries. You take a lot of things for granted. You know, if you walk in the street and start protesting, you take that for granted. You know, if you post something controversial that's not mainstream or conservative online, you don't get any backlash for it. You take that for granted. So it's just the freedom aspect, the ability to do whatever you want when you want. Obviously, as long as it's not infringing on someone else's rights. That part exists is in scarcity nowadays, I'd say.
That's interesting. You know, I've been thinking so much, especially over the last couple of years, about the relationship between freedom and safety. Because a lot of people, particularly in the West, and I'd say particularly Americans, they view safety and freedom almost as if they're opposites and they're on this sliding scale. And I tend to see it very differently. I mean, there's a couple things that struck me about what you were saying there, which is, I think that to have freedom, to have true, proper day-to-day freedom, there's a baseline level of safety that's required.
I'd agree with that.
So in some ways, somewhere like Johannesburg on paper is more free than Dubai.
Yeah.
But if you're just saying, hey, you can't just travel freely, you can't just come out the airport and get in your car and go, I'm like, is that freedom? Like on paper,
Yeah.
on paper it is. But then in the reality, it's like, well, if you have to be so cautious and have such a level of vigilance that you're like, actually, I can't do that or I can't do that. I'm like, wait, that then starts to take away from the freedom. Yeah. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. It's not something I've fully formulated in my head, but I think that freedom and safety work together rather than against each other. And I think there's a difference between like on paper freedom and sort of day-to-day freedom. And then there's also elements of like financial freedom, for example.
Yep.
So someone might be telling me like, oh, I'm so free, da, da, da. And I'm like, all right, how much do you pay in taxes? And they're like, oh, 40%. Or I'm like, okay, so if you don't do that, what happens? You're like, I don't know. You go to prison.
Go to jail, yeah.
I'm like, okay, so you have to give 40% of everything of everything you earn to the government every year just to stay out of jail. Are you free?
Yeah.
I don't know, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a good question.
I don't know. I just think about these a lot. I like to take in the different perspectives. Maybe one day I'll write a book on like the relationship between these things. But let's talk a little bit about your business.
Yeah. Just quickly on your premise.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I agree with your premise in the sense that you need a basic level of safety in order to accommodate your freedoms. And I do agree with that. I'd say because I'm from Johannesburg, which is probably the meanest and grittiest part of South Africa, in that part, I'd agree with you. In that section where it applies, where it's so unsafe that you can't conduct day-to-day activities without some form of protection, that is very dangerous. And I don't think that your freedoms will apply there because it's just so unsafe. So I do agree with you. However, in the vast majority of South Africa, it is reasonably okay, right? Like most, I'd say I compare it with maybe some countries I compare it with the US actually in terms of safety, right? The murder rates are pretty much the same, on par. The crime rates are pretty much on par with most states. So most of South Africa is okay, and you do have the basic level of safety with the freedom. What I would say though is, apart from once you've acknowledged that you do need that basic level of safety to conduct those freedoms, what I then say is, okay, once you do have that safety, then you need to worry about not only safety from the people, but safety from the government.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And that's one thing I do feel that we have in South Africa. We got a government that respects people's rights. Okay. Right? Or at least is fighting to.
Yes.
Right? There's a difference. So I'd rather have a government that is probably at the moment not respecting my rights, but is trying to, than a government that says, no, we're just not going to respect your rights. And then you trying and doing something opposing to that. So yes, I do agree with you. You got to have a basic level of safety. But again, you got to do that in a place that allows you your freedoms, not only from the people, but from, let's say, a tyrannical government or a government that's coming after you.
100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah. I think the freest place in the world would probably be like a rural region of red state.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Where you have the on paper
yes.
freedoms that come with the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but you're not in like an inner city area where, well, some of those rights are curtailed anyway, such as the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
But also you then have the safety, you know,
level of safety.
Yes, you don't have the level of safety that necessarily grants you the freedom to kind of go about your business in the way that you might. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Like when people, you know, we all use language differently.
Yeah.
And so when people say certain words, it means very different things. You know, so if I even tell someone like, oh, you know, I live in Dubai, like you get such a range of reactions. I'm sure you get the same, right? You have some people like, oh my gosh, you must have like no rights and no freedom and no this. And I'm kind of like, there is nothing that I want to do that I can't do here. There's nothing I do when I'm in the UK or I do when I'm in the US or whatever that like all of a sudden like I come to Dubai and like I can't. That might not be true for everyone. Depending on your lifestyle, depending on like what it is you do or whatever, you know, sure. Like there are some things where they're like, actually, you know what? No, we're going to restrict this. We're going to restrict that. And it changes place to place. It even changes throughout history. I'd say the way Dubai is actually very similar to how many Western cities were just a couple of decades ago in terms of the laws and the way the sort of boundaries are. So yeah, it's a fascinating one. Like I don't want to get too I don't want to get too down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole, but I think it's an interesting. My summary of it is I'm a big fan of just like, go where you're treated best, right? Like
That's true.
everyone's
That's
different.
true. That's true.
So I always tell people, like, people know I travel a lot. I've been to lots of different
Yeah.
countries, lots of different cities, and you always get the question of, where's the best
Where's the
place?
best?
I'm like, there's no best place,
Yeah.
man. It depends on who you are. Everything from the climate to the type of food you like, to the type of nature you like
Yeah.
to be around. Do you prefer urban or rural, big cities, small cities? Where's your family? What's important to you? What kind of business do you do?
Yeah.
Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a digital nomad
it's
type?
true.
Are you a 9-to-5er? There's no one single.
No, there's no one size fits all.
No,
right?
there isn't.
No,
There isn't.
and I'd say like you said, if you move to like maybe somewhere in Texas or Utah where you can get that basic level of
Yeah.
freedom with safety, with the freedoms that you are required to have, I think that's probably the best bet that you can have. But like you said, it depends on what you value, right?
For
So
sure.
if you are a single guy and you're an entrepreneur, similar like me, and you're moving around and you're quick and you just need to conduct business, I think Dubai is the place for you, right? I think if you value, if you like a two-way advocate, or someone who loves their freedoms, their protection, right? Then I think the US and South Africa is the place for you, right? Where you can keep and bear arms to protect your freedoms, and freedom's the most valuable thing that you have. I think that's the place for you. Again, if you're married and you have children, that's a different question, right? Do you want your kids to be indoctrinated with mainstream conservative ideas or not, right? Then US probably not the place for you.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's a mix. It's give and take at all places, but you just got to decide what's best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all trade-offs. So you've been an entrepreneur your entire life?
I'd say, look, I started quite young, so I can see how it sounds like that. But I'd say from about 16, 17, I started getting disinterested with school and focusing more on, not only business, but what can I do to provide value? Because I was sort of that guy in school where, okay, we're learning stuff, but what am I doing, right? I'm just consuming knowledge that is pretty much outdated, books written in 1990s, early 2000s, with knowledge that I'm never going to use. I'm learning business from teachers that have never started a business. I'm learning economics from someone who's never been an economics professor. I'm learning history from someone who's never been a historian. It just didn't make sense to me. And I said, okay, look, it's a difference between educating yourself with knowledge, because that's very important, and I'm always for education and being a constant learner. And there's a difference between consuming knowledge for the sake of it. And I think that's what most school is now, just consuming knowledge for the sake of it. It's to write a test and pass, and then that's it. So from about that age, I started realizing that, okay, this is probably not the best path. So I stayed in school and I started doing other things on the side.
This was a school here in Dubai.
This was a school in Dubai.
Okay.
And I started doing other things on the side, and I was making money. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, let me actually learn about business, So I put that to the test, and I said, okay, let me learn about business from someone who started a business. So, spoke with family members and people who were involved in business, and we put together an idea, long story short, and I started the first company that we had. And we scaled it up to $8 million and sold it by the time I was 20 years old.
What company was that?
This was also in the sneaker industry.
Okay.
Right? It was a subsidiary of ThrillerME. So ThrillerME, before it was a marketplace, it was just an e-commerce store.
Got it.
Right? So we
So
scaled
you
it
were
up.
keeping stock.
We were keeping stock, right? And we were growing the inventory, we were growing the user base. We amassed about 35,000 users. We got a valuation. We got a valuation based on the marketplace MVP that we had, the one that's running now. And at that age, I pretty much said, okay, this is working, and this is something that I'm doing that's providing value. Let me focus and harness my talents on this, rather than continuing higher education, which I feel is not the right move for 99% of people. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor, engineer, then that's the path for you. But I'd say for 99% of people, it's not. So I decided to pursue that path, and luckily it turned out. And I started getting involved in the startup world and business world, and I think that was the right path for me at the time. I mean, time will tell, but I think that's the right path.
Yeah. And am I right in saying your parents are entrepreneurs?
So my family is involved in business in South Africa. My father is definitely, a key role model, the person I went to ask for business advice, and still helps me day to day when I need help. And we got a family business in South Africa, and we always had sort of a business mindset. Entrepreneurship is the way to go. And I think that really propelled me from a young age to also say, okay, I had a support structure to encourage me to pursue business. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people don't have that.
That's very important.
Yeah,
it's quite rare.
I think most guys, if they tell their parents, okay, we're going to start a business, they'll think that something's wrong with them. They'll say, no, just stick with school. It's a safe option. It's the way to go. And what I didn't realize until I started building businesses and building companies is, you don't realize how much external validation you used to get for the conservative choices that you made in the past. Right? If you think about it, when you graduated school, it was like you found a solution to global warming, right? Guys were like, fantastic. You'd have a party and you'd have a big cake and tell someone you started a business tomorrow, see what happens. Okay, congratulations.
Or say you want to take out a $50,000 loan to go to university versus you want a $50,000 loan to start a business.
If you go into Harvard on a student loan and now you're $75,000 in debt, congratulations. It's amazing. So you don't realize how much validation you used to get before for the conservative choices you make. And it's actually quite sad. So yes, it's important to have that structure to sort of encourage you that, look, what you're doing is the right move. But again, you got to be true to you, So you got to cut out all that noise that says, no, you're not making the right decision. No, this is going to fail. No, you're not going to succeed. And then sort of say, okay, I know what I want to do. This is the end goal. I'm going to give it a time frame and I'm going to put in the work and then we're going to see what happens. So it's interesting. I think a lot of guys now at the moment, they're struggling with which university to pick or which degree to take. And everyone's encouraging them. It's fantastic. And I agree to a point.
Yeah, you've raised so many interesting points here.
Yeah.
And, my own view, I'm an Oxford University graduate.
Okay.
I graduated 18 years ago. I got a degree in computer science. And what's fascinating is in the past 18 years, my view of university and higher education in general has changed quite a lot. But also the universities themselves have also changed a lot. In terms of the value proposition, the tuition fees in the UK, I don't even know about the US, but the cost to go to university has tripled.
Yeah, it's true.
Since I graduated. So when my oldest brother, say, who's 10 years older than me, when he went to university, you didn't even have to pay the tuition fees because it was taxpayer funded. Correct. So at the point of service, you didn't have to pay anything. And then they got introduced. And then just in less than 20 years, it's tripled. At the same time, the value of the degree itself, I would argue, has decreased.
Yeah, it's deteriorated.
Partly because so many people are getting them, but also the education. When I say education, I don't mean formal education, but the ability for people to educate themselves has changed.
Yeah.
We now have this thing called the internet. And sure, 20 years ago, if you wanted to learn how to be a programmer or you wanted to learn about this subject or that subject, you couldn't really do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at best, you could go to a library and check out a whole bunch of books and try, but it was very difficult. You didn't have all these courses. You didn't have YouTube videos.
Correct.
You didn't have online tutors now. And so the landscape has changed so much that I've probably reached a conclusion, which is quite similar to yours. What I say is that, when people ask me like, especially younger people, oh, should I go to university? What are my thoughts? I think there's 3, maybe 4 categories of people who I think should go to university. Okay. I think number 1 is, you already touched on it. You want to go into a field and a vocation where you absolutely need a degree.
Absolutely.
You want to be an engineer. You want to work in medicine.
Yeah.
You want to be a doctor. You want to be I guess lawyer would still apply, right? Yeah. There's certain jobs where it's like, okay, like you've got to
you have to get a degree.
You've got to get the degree.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's one category. Number 2 is if you can go without incurring any cost.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you can get a full ride scholarship, or you're blessed to have parents who are going to pay your way through, if you can go through it and you're not going to have any debt, then I think there's a value in education itself.
Yeah.
If you're 18 years old and you're not 100% sure of what you want to do yet, there's no harm spending 3 years getting a degree, meeting people, doing all that. If it's not going to cost you, you're not going to come out $100,000 in debt, then, why not do it? And then I'd also say the third would maybe be, and this sort of ties into the others, but like, if you're just like someone who's very, very academically capable and you want to do like a genuine useful degree, even if it's not something maybe you're going to apply in the exact field you go into. Like, I think there's a bunch of nonsense degrees.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There's a lot of degrees where it's just like, this doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
There's no point. But if you're going to study a real subject and you're just like you're an academically good person, then, especially if number 2 also applies, then I'd say, okay, but outside of that, and most people, I don't think meet all one, let alone multiple of those. Outside of that, I'd be like, I don't think it's worth it. If you asked me 20 years ago, I would say, I think most people should go to university. Now I'm like, I don't think most people should go.
Yep.
I think everybody should educate themselves.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, I don't think education and university are the same thing.
No, that's a big differentiation, and people conflate the two a lot, right? They say if you don't go to university, then you're not educating yourself. No, it's a big fallacy. Look, the main thing, I agree with everything you said. I think the main thing that people don't realize is when you go to university, if you go for one of those 3 reasons that you mentioned, I'd agree with you. I probably also go if I was in the position. The main benefit or the main takeaway I'd see people getting from university is not so much the degree and the piece of paper at the end. It's a network, but what I'd also say is it's the ability to learn how to learn, right? Because most people don't know how to learn. Because if you think about it, when I started my first startup, I was reading a lot of books from startups, people who started startups, people who started businesses, who founded big companies, public companies. And what I learned from them is they were all expert learners, right? They knew how to absorb information very quickly and how to apply it and when to apply it. And they say the main degree that helped them, they ran a study and they said the main degree that helped people learn how to learn was, or become good at learning, was a physics degree. They said, what? And then if you look, most of the guys that manage hedge funds and VCs and most guys in finance, the top guys, they have a physics degree.
Interesting.
And then I was like, okay, that makes sense to a point. And I started delving deeper and I started extrapolating what they meant. And what they meant is they didn't go to university to get a physics degree because they want to be a physicist. They went because physics gives you the best wireframe on how to think, right? How to look at things.
Computer science is actually
right? Computer science, exactly, right? On how to look at things from a different perspective and how to extrapolate it and critically think about things. So I think if you go to university, and the skill you get out of it is you learning how to learn. That's a big benefit. And 3 years of your life is nothing. Anyone can give away 3 years, especially when you're 19, 20 years old. It's nothing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to have a degree that's going to provide some value. I was speaking to a friend of mine. We were in business together and we worked together for a while. And he said that his brother was going to university. I said, okay, that's fantastic. He said, yeah, he's going to university and we had a big party. I said, amazing. What is he studying? He said he's in the US. He said his degree was West African lesbian poetry. I said, say it again. He said, yeah. No, he got a scholarship. I said, he said, what? He said, West African lesbian poetry.
As a major?
I don't know. I don't know. I stopped listening to him after that, right? I stopped the conversation. I said, okay, now I know, right, that university is a scam, right? And you look at the rates. I mean, the dropout rates in the US are like 41% or something like that, right? It's ridiculous. And at the end of that, people who get degrees, they expect they have a sense of entitlement. They say, okay, I got a degree now, I expect to be put in the workforce. They have no value. Most of them have no value unless you're in a very critical field.
There are degrees that give you negative value.
Exactly, right? Like you're better off not getting them.
I'd rather, if I were gonna hire someone, I had 2 candidates, and one of them has no degree, and one of them has a degree in lesbian underwater basket weaving. I will hire the person without the degree because I'm like, you weren't stupid enough to waste 3 years.
It's ridiculous when you think of it.
Something like this stupid and going into debt ridiculous. For something this dumb.
No, and it's scary. Not only the fact that people are studying this, but the fact that it's taxpayer funded.
Yeah.
Right? That's the scary part. My taxpaying dollars are going into these degrees, and you think this is a once-off degree. It's not a once-off degree, right? You got like from psychology, you got about 100 different offsets of what you can study. Yes. You know, it's from social sciences, you got about 1,000 different offsets of what you can study. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So I think that if you're going to university just for the sake of going to university, you're wasting your time, you're wasting money. Most people think it's not their money. You're still wasting taxpayer money. You're still wasting time, money, energy, effort, resources. I think you're expending these resources for no good reason. But I think if you do have a valid reason to go there, you should. Another thing that I tell a lot of people is if you're not going to go to university, but you don't know what to do, because it's a question I get asked a lot, especially young men. They say, okay, you didn't go to university. I said, okay, I didn't go to university, but it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So they say, what do you think I should do? I said, honestly, what I think you should do is go and find a job or a degree that you absolutely hate.
Okay.
And go do that. And for a second, they think about it and they say, okay, that doesn't make sense. I said, okay, give me a minute. Go and do something that you absolutely hate. And while you're doing that, you'll be doing it for a week, a month, 3 months. You'll be in probably the worst rut of your life. You'll think, I hate what I'm doing. And I think that when you hate what you're doing, you'll find what you love. That's what I did. I was in school and I hated school.
Why?
Fully.
Why did you hate school?
because like I said, I was consuming knowledge for the sake of consuming knowledge. I was consuming knowledge for test. I wasn't consuming knowledge for the pursuit of higher education and learning. And the stuff that I was learning, like I mentioned, I was being taught business by someone who was never in business. It didn't make sense to me, right? I was being taught history by someone who was never a historian. It didn't make sense. And all they did was they went through a similar teaching degree that was probably, the books were written in 1970s, 80s, hasn't been updated, right? We're studying the Cold War and everything that's irrelevant to nowadays, modern times. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me, right? I'm all for education. I'm all for learning. But when it's learning for the sake of learning, I think that's fruitless and pointless. So I absolutely hated it. And I said, okay, I hate this. What would I rather be doing? And then I figured it out. I'd rather be providing value in this industry, or doing this, or building this business, or joining this company for an internship. I'd rather be doing all that stuff. And it's amazing when you're doing something that you hate. It's amazing how quickly you'll find the thing that you want to do. And they think about it, and a lot of them do it, and a lot of them find what they're looking for by doing something that they hate. So that's just my suggestion for people who don't know what to do. Because a lot of people, they don't know what to do, and they're just going to university because, like I said, it's the conservative choice.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
going to university, nothing's wrong with that. Parents are going to be happy. Everyone's going to be happy. Just do your thing, do your 4 years and get out. Yeah. So I think it's a big mistake, and I think people encouraging it is detrimental to anyone who's thinking of going to university.
It's a strong statement, but I totally get where you're coming from. It's one of those issues where I feel like the societal and generational software update has not taken place yet.
Yes.
Because
that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Most parents, look, any decent parents, obviously they want their kids to do well. They want them to be successful. Yep. And their template for that is what worked when they were the same age.
What worked 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So if your parents are, I don't know, in their 50s or 60s or 70s or even 80s, then in that time, I mean, if you rewind the clock, then going to university, whether you're in the UK, the US, South Africa, where, like, it was almost a ticket to at least a certain level of success.
Yep.
It was almost guaranteed if you go to university and you do at least decently well, it's going to open up all of these opportunities and you can go into all these fields. That was true up until pretty recently. Like it's only recently that's changed. And suddenly you have all of these graduates and they're working as baristas in Starbucks. And they're working in, they're selling shoes in Foot Locker or whatever. And they all have degrees.
It's true.
And so there's that delay where, people are raised with a certain set of values and expectations. And now I think people who are around my age, maybe, let's say my age, give or take 10 years, they are going to raise their children. Sure, you'll still have some people who are like, look, the pattern is just to go to university and so on. But there's going to be a lot more flexibility and a lot more thinking of like, okay, wait, the game has changed. The cost has gone way up. The value has gone down. Yeah. The opportunities for education and learning and work are so much bigger now than they were before. I mean, gosh, who knows? I mean, by the time my son is 18, 19,
college ready,
who I don't even know what it's going to look like, right? It's going to be different again.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be new jobs that don't even, I mean, okay. If I think back to, I was born in 1986. In 1986, if someone were to explain to my parents how their son in the future was going to make a living, you couldn't even explain it. There's almost no aspect of what I do that was even explainable, because it's just like, oh yeah, he's gonna.
It was so far-fetched. Yeah.
It's like what even are these things? These words don't. Even, the words don't even make sense. What the heck is a podcast?
Yeah, it's true.
What the heck is? What's this? What is this? What's social media? What do these?
It's changed drastically.
Yeah, and so that's going to happen again in 20 years. There's going to be like all new technologies and avenues. There's going to be things that used to work, which it's like, okay, that's just dead now. Yeah, that doesn't even exist anymore. And then there's going to be like something brand new
wave.
A whole new wave.
Yep. And is that a scary thing? Does that make people uncomfortable not going to university? Yes, it does. Right? It's a scary, uncomfortable feeling that you're leaving your child out there to sort of fend for himself. But is it necessary? Yes. Right? I think that's the pill that you've got to swallow as a parent and as a student or as a young man, to say that's a pill you got to swallow to secure whatever goals you wanna achieve, right? Because it's easy to say I'm gonna go to university and get a 4-year degree and after that get placement and I'm gonna work for the rest of my life. That's an easy thing to say, but it's actually difficult to say no. what I'm going to do is I have a set goal in mind. It's not a conservative, it's not a mainstream goal. It's a radical goal because this is a radical belief to not go to university nowadays. And to say that regardless of what everyone is saying, I got 10 people telling me no and the only person telling me yes is myself. That's an uncomfortable feeling. But I think it's necessary for most young men nowadays to say, is what I want to do, or does what I want to do require a degree? And if the answer is yes, then go for it. If the answer is no, then you got to swallow the pill and say, okay, I got to do what I got to do. And I'm gonna rough it out, and I'm gonna learn from the best. I'm gonna learn from people that have experience. That's another thing I don't get about people. What most people don't realize, and this is not a shortcut because I don't like shortcuts, but if someone wants to achieve something, a lot of young guys come to me and say, I want to achieve something. I want to buy a specific car. I want to get a specific house in an area, or I want to build this business, or I want to grow my Instagram, or whatever they tell me. First thing I say is, okay, there's someone out there in the world who's done what you wanted to do. Yes or no? They say yes. I said, okay, then go speak to them or find out what they did. Right? If someone wants to buy, let's say, a Range Rover, don't go talk to someone who has a Toyota because he's not going to tell you. Go to ask a guy how to buy a Range Rover and say, okay, what I did was I set aside money every month and I put it in an index fund, and after 3 years I was able to buy the car. He'll give you a route to follow. Someone wants to build a successful business.
Don't discount how many ballers drive Toyotas.
No, it's true. No, it's true. 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you want to achieve a specific goal, go find someone who's done it, because whatever you want to do, someone else has done it. Right? So instead of going to someone who hasn't started a business and asking them for business advice, which doesn't make sense, which happens more than you think, which is like, it's the same thing with university and a business degree. Why would you go learn from a professor who's 40 years old, never started a business, reading documents and books from 1990 about how business works, when you can go speak to someone now who's running a business and take up an hour of their time and listen to them, absorb that information?
It's never been easier to do that.
It's never been easier. You can literally go on YouTube and learn from everyone. Right? Anyone you want, they probably made a YouTube video and you can go learn about it. And that's the thing most people don't realize. It's so easy to absorb this information from people who have done what you want to do, and it's just a matter of going out there and doing it. And it's a radical idea.
It is. You're touching on something else that I've been thinking a lot about recently. And this is the concept of agency.
Okay.
And I think that everything you and I are both high agency individuals. If there's a bell curve of agency, and you have the lowest and the high, like anyone who's an entrepreneur is going to be a high agency person, which means that you are a lot more comfortable with feeling like you are in the driver's seat of your life, and you can make these decisions, and you can go against the grain, and you can question the majority or the conservative opinion, and so on. I'm increasingly coming to the conclusion that most people are not like that.
It's true.
And you've got the extreme other end where people feel like they're just completely, the kind of people who don't even. I mean, there are people out there who pretty much think like everything is just luck, right? Like their worldview is just like everything's luck. Rich get richer, poor get poorer. You can't go up, you can't go down. Like you're just kind of where you are.
They take things at face value.
There's that very low agency type thinking. Most people are kind of somewhere in the middle, which is why for most people they want to have like a very clear established path that millions or billions of people have taken.
A tried and tested path.
And it's tried and tested. And I just think with the way the world is changing and the way technology is changing, the way business is changing, it's increasingly tilting towards high agency. And I don't know, I could be wrong. I would like to think you can sort of take anyone and make them higher agency. Yeah. I don't know if you can, in the same way that you can make someone more entrepreneurial, but if someone's just, you can't kind of just, I don't know if you can just take the average person and turn them into like a great entrepreneur. It's kind of like it's in you. Same like art, right? Can you make someone more creative? Yeah, but some people are just like creative. Yeah. They're just creative people. And I think that agency is kind of like that on that same bell curve. And I don't know there's a change in what the sort of societal default is in this regard with higher education and then work, right? Just, it's always been, go to school, you get a degree, get a job, work. I mean, people used to work one job from 20 until they retire. That used to be the norm. Yeah. Now it's like, I don't know how long the average job lasts, but probably a few years. Most people are going to move around a little, sideways, up, down. Yeah. That's kind of how it is. And I just think again, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's going to be even more different. So yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I wonder what that solution is going to be for a large chunk of people who are not as comfortable with, you see this in everything. You see it like in investing, for example.
Okay.
So like most people do not invest at all.
Okay.
That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's kind of crazy. I'm like,
it's true.
Like most people have no investments.
It's true.
No stocks, no Bitcoin, no real estate. Like most people don't invest. Most people are so conservative. Even if they have money, a lot of people like they just put it
put it aside.
Yeah. Which of course inflation is gonna eat it away anyway. Gonna kill its purchasing power. But like, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know if you're into. I don't know if you're like a Bitcoin guy.
Yeah.
But even with like, I'm a very staunch Bitcoin advocate. Okay. But it's kind of fascinating to me the way people respond. So, Bitcoin's now been around for like over 15 years.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's gone from being worth less than 1 cent to, as we speak, over $100,000 per unit, right? And I believe it's gonna go to $1 million, 10 million plus. But anyway, it's kind of fascinating how, and there's never been something that's like easier to invest in. You don't need like a brokerage account. You don't need to be a high net worth. You can start with $1. You can just, 97% of the world owns 0 Satoshi, like nothing, right? So after 15 years and $2 trillion market cap, only 3 to 4% of the global population
is participating.
Is currently participating. And the amount of people, and I'm talking like even like smart people I know who have like, you try to like explain it all to them, they're just like, oh, I can't take that risk, or I can't. I'm like, I'm not saying take your life savings, but I'm just like, don't you think you should have some?
Take a bit, yeah.
Just a bit. Like just a bit. And it's so hard to convince them. I'm just like, man, it's very, very difficult to
change.
When someone has like their worldview and this is how we do things, just to even get them to like step slightly outside of it and be like, you know what, maybe I'll just take 0.1% and kind of put it in there. And
it's the tunnel vision most people have, right? And it's balancing the paradigm between societal expectation and choices, right? Yes. What choices you're going to make. It's an interesting point you brought up. Can you take the average man and turn him into, let's say, a 1% man? It's an interesting question. I think it depends on a few factors. The most important factor is how much does he value societal expectation? Because if an average man, because I think an average man values or places societal expectation on a very high pedestal, right? In the sense that if I make this decision, what will other people think of me? If I start this business, what will other people think of me?
That's the norm.
Yeah, that's a normal thing. And I think that's to probably be the hardest or the biggest hurdle that you'll have to overcome if you want to proceed that route and you want to turn an average man into a successful 1% guy. It's changing how they perceive other people and how they interpret what other people think of them, right? So if they can completely eradicate society's expectations for them, then I think you can pretty much turn the average guy into a 1% guy.
But then he's not.
The question is, can you?
But then he's not average.
Then he's not average. Then you've done it, right? Then you turn him into the 1% guy.
I think that's what I mean when I'm talking about agency, because it's essentially, when I say use the term agency, it's essentially how much do you believe that you are in the driver's seat?
Yeah.
How much do you believe that you versus society, culture, the economy, all these other external factors, over the course of a lifetime? Look, none of us choose where we're born, when we're born, whatever. Like there's a lot of randomness but I always like to say, like, the older you are, the more responsible you are for the state of your life. Okay. So no one's going to look at a 5-year-old and be like, oh, hey, like you're responsible for you. Like at 5, you've had no chance to make any decisions. You're just born here, whatever. Your life, you're not controlling the wheel. At 20, there aren't a lot of expectations, right? For most people, like no one expects a 20-year-old to like have it all figured out. And by the time you get to 30, 40, 50, so like by the time you're 70, if you're still saying, oh, like,
if you still want to figure it out,
it's less, it's kind of like, especially if you're in a country that has opportunities, right? If you're just stuck in some terrible place, that's different. But if you're in the USA or you're in the UK or you're in Dubai, it's like, okay, man, you've had like 52 years of adult life to like
What have you done? Yeah.
To kind of figure something out.
It's a question.
But there are people who are just like, oh, well, it's not me. It's everything but them.
It's everything but them, right? It's not taking self-accountability. Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story about societal expectations, actually. So we recently done an investment round, right? For the startup, we did an investment round. We raised $12 million, and this went public. It went on a couple of business websites, and I got about 50 calls within the hour.
Okay.
Right? Just people that know me. And the first question they said was, congratulations. I said, thank you. And they said, you just got $12 million. I said, no, I didn't get $12 million, right? The business got $12 million. They said, okay, but how much did you get? I said, zero.
Yeah.
They said, wait, what? I said, zero. They said, what do you mean? I said, I don't need the money. The business needs the money, right? The money was for the evaluation of the business. It was for certain things. And the business needs it more than I do. The business is going to grow exponentially because of these funds.
Yeah.
They said, but what about you? You're putting in the work and you're working 18 hours, and don't you need an amount from that? I said, I do, but I won't take it. Mm-hmm. And everyone was flabbergasted. They were like, that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the day that I stopped cold turkey listening to society's expectations, right? Because they didn't understand my thought process. My thought process was, I don't care. I'm okay eating $5 meals a day, right? I'm okay driving in some beat up car or being driven around. I don't need all that. I don't need a fancy house. I don't need a big watch. I don't need any of that, right? I don't need a big name, nothing. And they were like, that doesn't make sense. And that's when I realized society's expectation means nothing, but it's when you totally disregard what people think about you. Yeah. That's when your learning begins, right? And I think most young men need this. Not only do they need to disregard what society thinks about them, but I think what's more important is they need to be in a position of stress, right? They need to be under that feeling of, okay, I've got to achieve certain things. Because when you got investors and people you got to make happy and stockholders and people that expect certain things from you, it's a different level of pressure. And I think most young men need that pressure because that's where you find yourself. Most young men I see out there, like you said, society doesn't have much expectation for a 20-year-old. No. I think that you should have an expectation for yourself as a 20-year-old.
Yes.
Right? I think as a 20-year-old, you shouldn't be out there partying every weekend and spending money and working at Starbucks. I don't think you should be doing that. I think you should be enduring as much stress as possible, right? Because that's where you find yourself. You need purpose, and you only find purpose through adversity. You only find purpose when things are difficult and tough and you're in the grit. That's where you find yourself, and that's where you find your purpose. And like I told you in the beginning, I was reading a lot of startup books in the early age, and one quote that stuck with me was, I think it was Peter Thiel. He said, they asked him, what do you think the purpose of life is? And he said, well, I think the purpose of life is to find your purpose and then spend every waking minute pursuing that purpose. And it's quite simple. And then I've sort of counterfactually changed that, and I said, okay, this is what I tell young people, because young people approach me every day and they say, what do I do? Or what do you think the path should be? And I think what's important is...
I love that you keep saying young people because you are a young person.
Because I am... It's true, right? It's true. I have to say young people. Even though I'm a young person, I have to say it, right? Because, but to be fair, I do say young people a lot, but I got a lot of older people. I won't say old, right? But older people messaging me because they're also in a predicament where they don't know what their purpose is, right? And I think that in life, you got to find your purpose.
There's something so interesting there. And this is something I've learned, I'm obviously 16 years older than you, right?
Yeah.
And even just from my own journey in my career and having spent, 2 decades at this point, even just on social media. Something I've really learned is age, I think, is less relevant than it used to be.
Okay.
I used to think when I was your age, I thought that to inspire someone, you had to be ahead of them in multiple regards.
Okay.
And I've now realized that inspiration runs in all sorts of directions. So age is one of those things, right? So you can be a 22-year-old and there can be someone out there who's 42 and they see what you're doing and they hear what you're saying and they take massive inspiration from it.
It's true.
Before, I always used to thought like it kind of flowed older to younger. It flowed from this to this. And then also because life is so multidimensional and there's so many different games in life that someone can be incredibly successful in one of them, but so poor in the other. Completely poor. So you could have someone who's quite literally like a multi-billionaire, but when it comes to health and fitness, they're clueless.
True. It's true.
So they go to a gym and like they're at the bottom, right? So in the game of business and wealth and whatever, they're like at the top. But then in this other one, they're clueless. Or when it comes to like relationships
Yeah.
or communicate, like they're surprisingly bad
It's true.
at knowing how to. And so you can actually just kind of like, especially now with the internet and podcasts and all this, there's not this thing of just like, oh, there's just this hierarchy and it flows in one way. You kind of find like it's in all directions. You got young people inspiring older people inspiring younger people. This person, it just, and I think that's beautiful. And I think I think that's quite a big change that's happening. I don't think it was always like that. It always used to be like, you know,
it's always hierarchical, right?
The
top inspires the bottom, right?
Now it's just kind
that's
of
the way it is. And you brought up a beautiful point, because it's so perplexed and life is so multifaceted that you can excel in one thing and not in the other.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I wouldn't say higher education, because higher education means university, but I'd say the pursuit of learning and excellence should apply no matter what age you are, right? So like I mentioned, I got people who are 20 messaging me and asking me questions. I got people who are 40 messaging me and asking me questions. People who are 50. And that's okay, because I do the same thing. I don't completely excel in all fields, and what fields I don't excel in, I go ask people, right? So it's a beautiful dichotomy in the sense that you can excel at one thing and someone else can excel at another thing, and you can work together and both excel at the same things, right? So that's definitely an interesting thing. Another thing is with the young men, it's difficult when you see someone who's achieved whatever you want to achieve and become overwhelmed, right? Because you see someone and say, okay, they got the money, they got the fitness, they got the relationship, they got the health, they've got on face value everything. And are you starting from zero? And it looks quite scary. It's overwhelming. But I think that's one thing most young people need to understand is, one, after you've removed societal expectations, realize that at the end of the day, everyone is human, right? No one excels at every single thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's something most young people don't understand, because me and you understand it perfectly because we've seen it. Most young people don't understand this, and they get overwhelmed, and because they get overwhelmed, they don't even attempt one thing and they just quit. And I think that's sad. And I think that society encourages us with higher education in university, in schools, because they say it's so difficult to become the 1% guy. Just take the conservative choice that 98, 99% of other people do, and you'll be fine. At least you won't be alone, right? You'll be losing, but you won't be alone. Yeah. Instead of winning and being alone, they'd rather have them lose and be with other people. So a lot of advice that I tell young people is you got to set aside what society thinks of you, but more importantly, you got to figure out what you think of yourself.
Yes.
Right? You got to believe that you can actually achieve, and to a sense, you've got to be a bit delusional. Yeah. Right? You got to be a bit delusional to say, I'm going to go against the grain and I'm going to go against the curve, and whatever they're telling me is wrong, and whatever I'm saying is right.
Yeah. Well, you have to see it before others do. You have to see your own success before other people do. If you're going to do anything, especially in the fields of creativity and entrepreneurship, there has to be a level of delusion, because where you want to be and where you see yourself being is by definition vastly different from where you currently are. People are always people know you as you are. Yeah. Right? You're 18 years old, you're 20 years old, you're 40 years old. People around you, whether it's friends, it's family, it's acquaintance, like people are used to just, this is the way this person looks. Yeah. This is the way they dress. This is how they are. And so if one day, and as you've alluded to many times, most people are sort of naturally conservative, meaning that they are averse to change. Yeah. And so if all of a sudden this person who you've like always seen in this certain way, even if they just like change their look, they change their hair, they change their hairstyle, say someone who's like before, they're overweight, they're a bit sloppy, whatever, they don't really take care of themselves. And then they just like, wow, they get in shape, and like, they're just, it's like, whoa, like, and there are people who don't really like that.
It's true.
I love that. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are like, oh no, I don't really, like, I wanted you to stay, maybe they don't even consciously think it. Yeah. But they're like, oh no, I had this view of you, and now I need to.
Now it's changed, yeah.
Now I need to kind of change it. Yeah. And, we hear a lot about crabs in a bucket, and oftentimes, there are haters. Haters exist. But I think there are also a lot of people who just, they're not haters, but they quietly and inadvertently discourage people. Yeah. A lot. You see this in many ways. Say you have someone who's overweight or they're obese, and they want to lose weight. And the hardest people, the people who make it hardest for them are often their friends, their families, their boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, who's like, oh, come on, live a little bit. Or, what about this? Oh, you're on a, you want to do this, right? Like they make these little comments all throughout, or they just, instead of like supporting them in their diet, right? They'll offering them stuff that they know they shouldn't be eating. And it's, I don't know, man. Human beings are Human beings are funny. Like I love people, but also there's some strange things in psychology on the individual level and especially on the collective level where people kind of sabotage themselves.
Yes.
And they sabotage each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's intentional. I think most of the time it's not.
Yeah.
They're actually trying to just, I don't know, stay in their comfort zone and keep other people in their comfort zone. And, you know, they just don't want those things to change.
No, it's a very interesting diagnosis you brought up because it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And people are discouraged a lot because of what other people think of them and because of what other people say. And so your inner circle and your support structure is so important. Right? That's why I mentioned I think the most fortunate scenario you could be in is if you are raised in a household that has good parents with good values and just a little bit of money. I think that's probably the most fortunate scenario any human being can wish to be in. Because you're in that stage where you've got a good environment and you've got good values and you also understand the importance of working hard. And I think that's probably the best propellant for success as a young guy. Another thing is, look, I'm very, in the sense, hard on people who ask me what they think they should do. Because my viewpoint is nothing should stop you from achieving your goal. So when all these other things I look at as excuses. So in the sense that people are discouraging me or people are telling me no, it's all excuses. Right? At the end of the day, you got to take self-accountability. If you didn't get what you wanted to get, it's your fault and yours alone. Right? No one else can dictate how your life's going to go. So if you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to gain muscle, or you're trying to start a business, or you're trying to buy a specific house, or whatever it is, if you have a set plan in mind, and you got to be very goal-orientated, that's important. Because most guys don't know what they want. They're just working. If you are goal-orientated, you should have no excuses and you should have no one delaying your process of getting what you want. And that's an important skill. That's a skill that needs to be developed, right? And it develops through time. It develops through failure. It develops through pressure. Once you're in pressure and you start losing, that's another reason I don't like higher education, because higher education encourages or discourages failure. In the real world, think about it. If you go to university and you fail,
I see what you mean.
right? That's a big thing. It's like horrible. In the real world, failure is not horrible. Failure is fantastic, right? I'd love to fail as many times as possible, because the more times that I fail, the closer I am to success, right? Someone told me this early on when I was starting, because I was at a point where so many things were going wrong, and I was on the verge of stopping and quitting and probably pursuing something more conservative. And he said to me, "How many times have you gone out and asked for investment?" I said, "Probably about 15 times." He said, "Okay, what if I told you were 10 times away from yes?" That on the 10th time, the investor would say yes. Would you go do it? I said, "Yeah, of course."
Of course, yeah.
Right? He said, "What if you were 20 times away from saying yes?" I said, "Yes, of course." He said, "So go do it." And whenever you hit that number, increase it again and again and again. And that just shifted a mindset there. I said, okay, the end goal is not to actually achieve investment. The end goal is the relentless pursuit of excellence. That's what it was. It was for me, and that's what he told me on face value. He said, life is not about an end goal or retirement age and any of that. Life is about the relentless pursuit of excellence and knowledge. And that never stops. And that's why it's so motivating, because there's no end goal. If you had a set figure in mind, I want to make $1 million. After $1 million, you're going to take your foot off the gas. And then that's it. Right? You've lost purpose.
Actually, you'll probably realize it's not as much as you thought it was, and realizing if you have the motivation to make it to that level, then you'll be like, oh no, actually,
you'll be good.
I got to keep moving.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought, and that's why I'm very. You mentioned retirement earlier. I'm very much against retirement. Right? What is retirement?
Men should not retire.
Huh?
Men should not retire.
No, there's no such thing as retirement.
The only time I've ever been like, the time I'm most worried about my father, was when he tried to retire.
Okay.
He himself, it didn't. It lasted like 2-3 months.
Okay.
But like when he was like retiring, I was actually like a little concerned. I was like, I mean, he's like in his late 70s.
Okay.
He's at the age where, he probably like, should retire according to society. But I was like, actually, like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I think that as a man, speaking broadly here, I think as a man, once you retire, the death clock starts ticking down.
It's true.
I think it does. I think it makes sense to take your foot off the pedal a little.
Yeah.
And to, if you were working 5 days a week, cut it down to 2 or 3, but like you can't, the whole idea of,
that's different to retirement.
The whole idea of I'm going to just retire and I'm just going to play golf or sit on a
Yeah.
beach or whatever. I think that, it's easier to lose it.
Yeah.
Just like if you stop going to the gym,
Yeah.
doesn't matter how long you've been training. If you stop
It's true.
training, your muscles are going to atrophy.
It's true.
It's true of your brain as well.
Yeah.
Your brain, creativity, all that. And even if you don't need the money, just you have to stay at least mentally engaged. If you're going to retire from work, you at least need to take on something that's going to keep, especially as people get older.
Yeah.
As people get into their 60s, 70s, 80s, like, your brain deteriorates.
Yeah, it's true.
And you have to stay engaged and stay doing things. And yeah, I think, I can't really speak for women, but I think certainly for men, I don't believe in like full retirement.
No.
I believe in like a partial,
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to not just be on the grind like I was before, but retiring overall. Like I see people who are like, they've had some success early and, they're in their like, they're 35 or they're even 45 and they're like, oh, I want to retire. I'm like, bro, you want to retire at 35? Like, what are you going to do for the next 60 years? 60 years.
Yeah.
Like, what's your plan? And oftentimes they don't, I'm just going to like I'm like, bro, come back in 6 months. You're going to be bored. You're going to be bored.
And that's the thing. I personally view retirement as a psyop. If you think about it, because if you think about it, right? Let's say, I think the retirement age is, let's say 65.
Yeah.
Okay. By the time you're
It'll
40,
be like 85 by the time we're
exactly. But for most people, right? By the time you're 40, you're already thinking, okay, my retirement's coming up. By the time you're 50, you can start easing off.
Yeah.
By the time you're 55, 60, your foot's going to be off the gas and you're just counting down the days. So that whole mindset shift is so different to someone like me or someone like you. As entrepreneurs, there's no end goal. There's no finish line. There's no such thing as once I get this or once I achieve this, I'm going to stop. Yeah. It just doesn't exist. And that's a mindset shift you got to have from a young age. From a young age, you got to go after it. And even though you've made it or you've got what you wanted to get and achieved what you want to achieve, there's no taking your foot off the gas. There's no stopping. If anything, you got to double down and go harder. I think that's something most guys don't realize.
Do you know why I think as well, though? Is I think a lot of people, when their thinking is far too selfish.
Yeah.
So even I'm sure like a lot, I'm not begrudging any teenage guy or whatever, because like I've been a teenage guy, I get it, right? But like when you're in your teens or oftentimes in your early 20s, particularly if you're thinking about like success and wealth and career, you tend to think of it from a very selfish perspective. It tends to be like, I want that car, I want this type of house, I want that thing, I want to be. You tend to think that way, and when you do, well, number one, actually, funnily enough, it makes it harder to earn money. But actually, if you have a purpose and a service that's outside of yourself, and you are thinking of like, okay, I've got a mission and I want to serve people. I want to, this product or this service or this talent I have, I want to get it out to people and I want to improve their lives in some way, shape or form.
Exuberance value,
once you are thinking in that mindset, then the idea of like, oh, I'm going to hit some number and stop, it doesn't even make sense, because it's like, okay, say you achieve some success by 40 or by 50 or whatever. It's like, man, there's still all these people who could benefit from what I have to offer them. So why would I stop? No, I'm going to keep on going. Like my dad's a medical doctor.
Okay.
And I think with him, his mindset is kind of like, he's been a doctor for like 50 years.
Yeah.
And he has so much knowledge and he's directly helping people.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think his mind is just like, well, as long as I can do this,
make an impact.
Like why would I stop? It's not about like, oh, I need money. It's just like, hey, like I'm helping people. Yeah. Like I'm helping
make an impact.
In a tangible way. So I think the reason why maybe some people have that idea of like, oh, I just want to kind of hit this number and then do this and this. Normally I find by the time they've gone through the mindset shifts that actually like allow them to even get to that point, they would have realized that, oh no, the game's like it's way bigger than this. And it's not just about me. And obviously people get older and once they have like a family and so on, then that also changes the thinking to a more generational one of like, okay, it's not just maybe you have enough for yourself if you've been fortunate and you've done well, but then it's like, okay, but what about my son? What about my daughter? What about this? What about, then you start thinking of like, oh, I need to make sure that my great grandchildren are going to make sure that they're going to be
longevity
okay.
Thinking,
you start thinking that way. And when you look at people who have like huge levels of success, you find they tend to think like, not in years, not in decades, like generations. Yeah. They're just thinking of like, okay, like
Very long term.
Very, very long term.
Yeah. Look, I'd say one thing I'd say from what you said is you are way more merciful to young guys than me, right? Because I'm a young guy. I know what young guys could be doing instead of what I'm doing, right? And I still blame them. I don't understand why you would dedicate yourself as a young military age prime guy, right? You in the prime of your life. You've got the most energy you're ever going to have. You can stay up for days without sleeping, right? You got no responsibilities.
No.
You don't have a wife. You don't have kids. You don't have kids. You don't have anything, right? All you got to do is put in the work for a couple years and you're good. And I don't understand why guys would rather be out partying and wasting their money and buying cars and going to clubs. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And so when young guys message me and say, I want to be successful. I say, okay, what are you doing on the weekend? No, I'm going to clubs.
It's programming. Oftentimes, people
you think so?
think that...
You think it's programming?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, because especially if you're talking about the more sort of like materialistic...
Yeah.
Like a lot of times people want the perks and the image of success and money more than
they actually want the true value.
Yes, or even like they don't want to go through the process. You want the results.
They just want the end goal. Yeah.
It's like someone who wants to... I'll give you a good analogy, okay? It's like building a fantastic physique, right? Whether you're a guy or a girl, building a strong, muscular, lean physique. Like everyone in the world, if you ask them, hey, would you like to look more like this? Yeah. Everyone will say yes.
Yeah.
But if it's like, okay, but...
There's a but.
To do it,
there's a big but.
For years, you have to eat this way. You have to train this off. Right. And it's not even a hypothetical. We know that most people don't want to go through the process to do it because the vast majority of people do not do it. If they really wanted to, they would.
Yeah.
And they don't. So oftentimes when I'm talking to people, old, young, whatever, and I think to me, everything we're saying here, what we're saying, this is for the people who are who complain or who say they want certain things. Right? I often think like when I'm giving advice in general on social media or on a podcast or whatever, I'm like, this is for the people who are discontent.
Yeah.
If you're just someone who's like, you know what? I just want to have like a totally average life. That's not I'm more ambitious than that personally. You're more ambitious than that. But you know what? People who are like that, it doesn't really bother me. I'm kind of like, okay, that's not the way I'm wired, but like, cool. Like kind of like, God bless you in a way. In a way, that's kind of a blessing.
Yeah.
Because your expectations are not so sky high. If it's just some people are like, you know what, like I just want to earn like, a decent salary and be able to pay my bills and, hopefully like get married, have a couple kids and just kind of live a pretty normal life. That's totally fine. I think the people who you probably get frustrated by are the people who are like the complainers. The people who are like doing everything that's just like average or below, but they're saying they want this and this. I'm like, okay, well, in that case, you got to cut out the excuse. You got to change your habits. You've got to go hard. Like if you're saying that's what you actually want, then do it. If someone comes to me and is like, oh, Zuby, like, I see, you've been training a lot, whatever. Like, I want to teach me about nutrition and diet and training and whatever. I'm not annoyed by the person who's like, yeah, you know what? I just don't like going to the gym and I can't be bothered.
Yeah, at least he's honest. Yeah.
I'm like, cool. I get annoyed by the person who's like, hey, I want to do this. And then you give them the information, you tell them or whatever. And then they don't.
It's true.
And then they don't do it or they're just making excuses. Oh, I woke up late. Oh, I like now you're annoying me.
Yeah. No, it's true.
If you want
it's
it,
true.
If you want it, here's the path. If you're just honest and you're like, you know what? I can see what it takes to do all that. And you know what? I just don't want to work that hard. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to, I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, more power to you. Yeah.
Yeah, more power to you.
And that's the thing, right? What makes success so valuable is that it's hard to attain, like anything, right? If everyone has it, you wouldn't want it.
No.
So that's what makes it valuable. But my problem is when I have young guys, yes, their words are contrary to their actions, right? They say, I want to be successful and I want to do this. But then they're messaging me from a club or at 2 a.m. and partying. And that just is logically incoherent to me. It just doesn't make sense, right? So for those people, I got no time for. No. But I do have time for people. I'll give you an example. I had a message yesterday. 2 guys messaging me about 10 minutes apart. One guy messaged me and he said, hey, I just finished school and, I'm in Dubai. I'm with my girlfriend and I want to be successful. Can you help me? Nah, I don't open messages like that. Then I got another guy 10 minutes later. probably he looked very similar to the first guy, probably very similar build, pretty much the same guy, right? Out of school, doesn't know what to do. And he messaged me. And his message read, hey, he said, hey, Adnaan, I just finished school and I was given by my parents 2 years to figure out what I want to do. And I really like what you're doing. And my offer to you is I want to come and work for free. Yeah. I'll work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. I only want major holidays like Christmas and that off. And we'll do this for 3 months. And after 3 months, if you're not happy, we'll part ways, no hard feelings. And if you are happy, then I'd like to discuss a full-time job. I messaged him instantly. I said, this guy got the mindset, right? This guy, the other guy, I'm not even going to have time for him, right? He's not going to get anywhere with that mindset. This guy here, at least he's willing to put in the work and he's going to get far. And I had a similar opportunity about 6 months ago. Someone else messaged me like that, looking for an internship where they could just learn and absorb knowledge and figure out how businesses work and how our industry works. And now I set him up. He got his own company. It's a subsidiary of one of our other companies, also in the fashion space. And he's a millionaire. And this was 6 years ago. 6 months ago. 6 months ago. And he also approached, and 6 months ago, he was doing internships and now he's managing millions. Good. Right? And it's just the mindset shift. People just got to understand that it's not about what you say. It's about what you do. The idea is easy. It's the execution that's difficult. And you're right. Most people don't want to work so hard and have everything. And that's okay.
Yeah, right? That's okay.
That's fine. I mean, go do your thing. But what I don't understand, because I'm a young teenager, I can speak to, not teenager, but I understand young teenagers and young men. I know what all the vices are. You can go to clubs and you can, go rent cars and you can go with girls and you can do all that. My question is why? Yeah. Because I'm a young man. I don't do any of that. Yeah. I much prefer working and meetings and meeting with people and providing value and growing businesses and helping my family and helping other families. And the fact that I know that my team is large enough where we're feeding 10, 20, 30 families because they're working for us. That brings me more joy than going out clubbing at 2 a.m. everywhere. Or
you're an anomaly, man.
Right? But that's the thing. I don't understand it because I'm not. The thing, I'm not that special. I just put in the work. That's it.
But you say that, but statistically you are. This is what I mean.
Statistics will prove you right.
Oftentimes, I know tons of successful people. I've met many, many brilliant people. And, oftentimes extraordinary people are, people who are seemingly normal, who just do extraordinary things and who have a level of discipline and habits and a vision, which you just execute day in, day out for a long enough period of time. And it yields remarkable results. And for any young man who is listening to this, I would take that as motivation, because what you're essentially saying is hey, the competition's pretty weak, man. Your competition is out there wasting time and wasting money and doing this and doing that and whatever. If you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old guy and you just lock in, oftentimes when young people ask me well, what's the first thing to do? My first thing usually I say is get in awesome shape. Yeah. Because if you can do that, if you can build the discipline to go to the gym and lift weights multiple times a week and eat right multiple times a day, and you can do that for a few years, if you apply that same principles,
same thing in business,
anything else,
same thing,
then you'll be okay. In fact, you'll find it's easier. Yeah. Because our psychology and our bodies, there's so many temptations and fighting this and fighting that. If you can get that part worked out, then almost everything else becomes. I
agree with you on that. 100%.
Becomes relatively
Fitness
easy.
is a big testament to discipline, diligence, and
success. And you can't fake it.
You exactly.
That's of course there's steroids and whatever,
but you're right. That's one thing you can't really buy, right? You can't buy a good physique, right? To some extent, you've got to put in the work. Yeah. And that's the thing also when I hire people. When my team assesses people, we do look at the physical attribute plays a part, right? If there's a fat guy and a guy that's in good shape, right? I'm gonna look, and if the resumes are pretty much the same, I'm gonna pick the fit guy, right? Because I know that he's disciplined. I know that he goes to the gym. I know that he doesn't miss a day. I know that he eats well. I know that he got some form of structure in his life. This fat guy just gives in to his needs, to his desires, right? If he wants to eat, he'll eat. If he wants to sleep, he'll sleep. At least this guy got some form of structure, but. Going back to the young men, like you said, if there's young men listening to this podcast, what I don't understand is it's a dopamine chasing culture. Mm-hmm. It's a culture that only chases fun. So it's okay. What can I do today that's fun? What can I do tomorrow that's fun? Hey, let's do something this weekend that's fun. They're always chasing fun. Yes. I never understood that. Why would you chase? You don't need fun as a young man. You don't need fun. You need purpose, right? You need discipline. You need diligence. You need to find what you're good at and spend the rest of your life doing it. Yeah. That's what you need. As a young man, if a young man comes to me and says, what's fun to do? Doesn't make sense.
You know what? I have a little perspective on this as someone who's
please.
A decade and a half older than you. And I think what a lot of those young guys don't realize is that it sounds so obvious, but strangely enough, I don't think people realize this. They don't think this way, is that what you do in your late teens and 20s will determine the quality of your 30s.
It echoes into the rest of your life.
Yeah. And so if you, because in your 20s, whether man or woman, 20s people can get away with a lot of stuff.
It's true.
Physically, like they can be out, drinking and this. Like your body bounces back quickly enough that you can actually treat your body pretty badly. Yeah. And in your 20s, you're not going to see so much damage. Yeah. In the 30s, and then especially in 40s, it becomes like very obvious. That's why, like, I'm 38 years old. There are people my age who, if I tell someone I'm 28, they'll believe me. Okay. But there are people my age who look 50. Yeah. And there are people in my age who look
28,
right? Yeah. Like, so that's when it really starts to split, right? So I've been going to the gym now since I was 16, for 22 years. Yeah. I've spent 22 years regularly training, washing, and I'm barring any horrible accident or illness, I can guarantee 10 years from now, when I'm 48, I'm not going to be looking like I'm approaching 50. I'm still going to be in great shape. I'll still be strong, whatever, And so I think a lot of guys in their 20s, they don't think, basically, if you do your 20s well, your 30s will be way better than your 20s.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Right? Yeah, your third, I can tell you, my 30s, like I enjoyed my 20s. Yeah. But my 30s, because of what I did in my 20s, my 30s have been have been even better. And I'd imagine this goes through for each year. If you just mess around in your 20s and you don't learn any skills and you don't save or invest any money and you're just doing this and this and this, then your 30s are going to be like tougher because you haven't built anything yet. You've just spent the past decade, the last 12 years, not building anything. You didn't build network, you didn't build relationships, you didn't build wealth, you didn't build skills. And then you can, you get guys who are in their 40s and they're in their 40s and they're like behind where you are. Yeah. And it's harder then because maybe now there are even additional responsibilities. Maybe they do have a couple of kids. Maybe they have got people, and it's like,
and it gets harder. Yeah.
It gets harder. You're more tired. Yeah. You need more sleep. Yeah. Your brain, your body, all of these things are not as it's not as on fire as it was when you were 21, and it gets harder. So I think if people can kind of like extend their view out a little bit more, then it causes them to make better decisions. Yeah. If you can think, okay, you're 22 years old. What decisions can I make that the 32-year-old version of myself is going to say thank you? The 42-year-old version of myself is going to say thank you. Yeah. Right? What are the things I should not do, and what are the things I should do? Because it's fascinating. I've seen so many situations, so many people around the world, and like there are people who by the time they're 30, like they've made their life they've made it so difficult to now succeed. Yeah. They've set up so many barriers. There's guys who are 30 and they have 3 children from 3 different women. They don't even like any of them. They've got a criminal record. They've got some type of addiction. It's
unnecessary.
They've got some type of addiction. Yeah. They're addicted to gambling or alcohol or drugs.
Some vice,
And it's like, man, it doesn't mean you can't, if you're in that situation, right? Like, you could still turn that around.
Much harder though.
But gosh, man, like you've made it so difficult and so complicated permanently. Yeah. Now for the rest of you've got to deal with all of this stuff. Like you don't even have the mental capacity. You don't even have the time to like do some of the things that we're saying because you're just like trying to stay afloat, child support payments. Like this and this and
no, this. In that case, you spun the web a bit too long, right? But it's an important point. It's an important point. It's one distinction to make, right? Yeah. But going back to what you said about making choices that your future self will thank you for, and it's a good point. I think most young men need to adopt the idea of longevity thinking, right? Like I said, it's a very short-term dopamine chasing culture, right? It's today, tomorrow, and next week. What can I do that will make me the most happy? And that's a detrimental culture. So yes, you need that sort of longevity approach. It says, okay, I'm 19 now. In 2 years, I'm going to be 21. In 4 years, I'm 25. What's the goal? You know, what do I want to set for myself? And that goes back to what I was saying. You got to be goal orientated. If you're not goal orientated, you're just going through life without a purpose. It's like, okay, something could happen tomorrow. Okay. Something's going to happen the next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. Bad. Okay. You got to sort of adopt the mindset that, look, I know it sounds a bit stringent. The idea always seems easier than the execution, but just speaking from an idealistic standpoint purely, if you adopt that work culture, right? You can do it. Like you mentioned, your 20s is an amazing time because you can pretty much do whatever you want with your body and you'll recover, right? You can eat like shit. You can stay up late hours of the night, probably 3 days consistently, no sleep, very little sleep. You'll be fine the next day, you know? So it's up to you how you choose to use it. Yes, you can use it partying and going out late at night, or you could use it to work,
Build.
right? So like, for example, when I worked, I sort of adopt the mindset. Actually, me, a couple guys that I know, we all adopted this mindset, this entrepreneurial mindset that said, okay, we're going to work regardless of what happens. Business is going well, work. Business doing shit, work. Sign a new deal, worth millions of dollars, work. Business partner screwed me over, work. No matter what was happening, we adopted this work mindset. And it's amazing, like you said, that mindset applies across all facets of life. So in the gym, you know that you got to be consistent, right? You can't do 5 days 1 week and the next week take off. It doesn't work like that, right? It's consistent daily targets that you set, and over time that compounds, and then that builds into something great. And that approach, like I said, is easy in an idea stage, but it's the execution that's difficult.
Yeah.
And what most young men need to do is they need to switch their culture over from what's going to make me happy. Because I think as a man, your life's not supposed to be happy, right? Maybe some men will disagree with me.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to be happy as a man. Am I happy? I don't know. It's a philosophical question. You disagree with me?
No, I don't disagree. I just think a lot of the type of people you're talking about and you're addressing to, they have a very shallow view of what happiness means.
It's true.
They see happiness as a little, dopamine.
Happiness is subjective at the end of the day,
short-term
right?
dopamine spike.
Yeah.
I do think that if you have good habits and you live with purpose and meaning and you are an asset and value to your family, to your community, to people, like you will be long-term joyful.
Yes.
Like I am almost always happy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that in a short-term basis, I'm always having like a dopamine spike or something. Yeah. But if I look at my life, I'm like, of course I'm happy. Like I should be, but it's like I've built and I've created that.
Yeah.
And if you have certain things foundation, the thing with happiness as well is it's not, the pillars that build long-term happiness have kind of been the same for millions of years. All right. It tends to be faith,
quite fundamental. Yeah.
Faith, family, let's say meaning and purpose, and health.
Yep.
Right. These are really the core pillars. This is why whether someone is rich or poor or here or there, if they have those pillars, right? You could go to some poor village in Africa or some part of Asia or whatever, or South America. And if they have, good relationship with God, good relationship with their family, good relationship in their community, they're doing something meaningful and purpose like that, they'll generally be happy. Yeah. They will have a higher rate of happiness than most people in the Western world. I agree with you. Right? But it's not the happiness of like, oh, like I went to a party or whatever, or like I saw a cool TikTok video. It's like a long-term, maybe it's better. I prefer to call it joy. Yeah. All right. Like these are joyful people. And so, I totally agree on the short term. If you're just chasing the short-term happiness, then you will miss out on the long-term joy. Yeah. Because you won't set up those pillars to achieve it. And oftentimes when people are doing that, it's escapism.
It's true.
Right. Especially when it comes to things like drugs and alcohol. Yeah. It's escapism. Yeah. It's like you don't like the base state of your life. So you need to literally take something that alters your brain chemistry so that you can temporarily enjoy this, right? Or you're just playing a video game all the time because the video game is more fun than your real life. Real life should be more fun than the video game. Like I'm not here someone who's, I'm like, I think sometimes people take things to the extremes, right? You'll get people like, no, never play video games. I'm like, no, like you don't need to, if you're playing for 12 hours a day and you're not a professional gamer, that's a problem. Yeah. Right? If you're dropping in for 30 minutes here, an hour there, like it's not going to cause some type of harm, right? But I just think, the happiness one's very interesting because if I look at the people who are long-term happy, they tend to just have those 4 or 5 basic pillars in place. And then no matter what happens, even if there's a day where they're sad because something bad has happened, they still they have a perspective and a
Yeah.
gratitude where
They've
they're
got a
like,
good base,
okay,
yeah.
like this sucks, but
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of
Yeah.
things, I'm still overall happy because I still have all of these other things in place. Someone could like, you know, the worst thing can even happen. You know, someone gets sick, somebody dies, there's some horrible accident. And yeah, temporarily you're sad and you're meant to be.
Yeah.
But you're not like depressed.
No.
You're not like, because it's like, no, like this is the grander scheme. And that's part of where, you know, things like having faith and having meaning like play such a big role because you frame it in a certain way. You don't believe that, okay, this short-term materialistic, well, this is the be all and end all of everything. Everything here is just, you know, short-term hedonism, pleasure seeking and whatever. And the thing is, you can see it as well, because you can see now more than ever, you can literally see and watch people who live that life.
Yeah.
Man or woman, you can see the people who take that to the extreme.
Yeah.
They just take the hedonism and you can see over the years, and you're like, they all end up like this, like depressed.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
The end goal is always the same.
Always.
It's always
sometimes
the same.
suicide.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, these are not happy people.
Yeah. No.
Like they're not happy. If they were happy, they wouldn't even be doing all
They're
this.
perceived happy, right? It's perceptive of happiness to them. It's not true happiness. And you made a very good point. I think, for me, I personally think happiness changes over time.
Sure.
Right? So I think what makes you happy at 20 will probably make you happy at 30. Something different will make you happy at 40, and on and on. But yeah, like you said, when you build something of great value, not only to yourself, but to other people, then that can be derived as a source of happiness, right? So when I look at my company, and I look at the office, and I look at my employees, and I know that my employees' families are getting fed because of the business we built, and I know that there's houses over people's heads, and I know that we're providing other people value in different countries, and I look at it and I say, okay, I built that, you know, we created this, we funded this, we did this. That I don't know if happiness is the correct word, but that's purpose fulfilled. And I think that's where you derive happiness, right? But what I don't perceive happiness is this, like you said, dopamine chasing culture, right? Where it's just whatever vice is going to make me happy, whatever activity is going to make me happy, let me do this. And I'll be honest with you, 99% of young men have adopted this mentality, right? When I speak to guys,
I wonder if that's like a generational shift, because I don't think that in my generation, I don't think
it's a good question. I think it may be, right? Because I don't think that was the case. I think
social media is probably affected.
Social media is a big thing, right? Because the whole TikTok scrolling thing, it's built on a dopamine culture, right? It's okay. That's why you being on social, you'll know that the first, 2/3 of a second, right, of the video, or the person has already made up their mind on whether they're going to scroll. That's how quickly the attention span has dropped. That's how much it's dropped. And yes, I think there's a generational shift. I think 20 years ago, if you were 20 years old and working a full-time job, that was perceived normal, right? Now you're 20 years old, and if you're not going to university, or you're not partying or clubbing out every night, that's perceived as abnormal.
Interesting.
Right? So this dopamine culture needs to change, and it only changes through pressure, right? I think you need to put yourself in a form or in a state of voluntary pressure. So you need to go in and say, okay, this internship or this job is going to be hard. Like the guy who messaged me, he wants to work 10 hours a day. That's not an easy task to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's a difficult thing to do, but he's voluntarily going into it. Another option is people join the military. Why do they join the military? Yes, they love their country, but also they need the discipline, right? They want structure in their life. It's difficult, it's tough. And most of the times you'll see the people that come out of the military are not the same people that went in. They've got a different structure in life, right? And that will sort of pave the way for how they can live the rest of their life in terms of their marriages, their relationships, their fitness, their health, their business relationships. That all paves the way, but that all starts from when you build your base. And I encourage young guys to build their base as early as possible. So if you're 17, 18, and you're in school and you got a couple hours and you can put yourself in a state of voluntary pressure, I recommend you do it, right? Because I think your success is directly linked to the amount of pressure that you can handle. If you can only handle so much pressure, you're only going to be so successful. But if your capacity to handle pressure is immeasurable and it can keep going up and it's exponential, I think your success will dictate that as well. Yeah, it's an interesting point.
You've made so many good points here, and one thing I'll say to cap it off is that I do think you should enjoy the process. And
100%.
I think that will happen if you are pursuing something that you are genuinely interested in, and that you find some purpose and meaning, even when it sucks, even when you're having the crap days, even when you're not making money or you're losing money or things are bad, you'll still find an enjoyment in it. I've had so many times where like things like on a day-to-day basis, I'm like, man, this like sucks.
Yeah,
like this is crap. But
it's okay because the overall journey
smile,
is
and
there.
you can smile through it because you know, again, you have that belief in your
Yes.
head. You know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So you know, okay, this is I'm here and I'm trying to get up here.
Yeah.
And this is like a dip.
Yeah.
But I know I'm still gonna get there.
It's true.
So sure, this is a minor setback, but you know what? I can sort of laugh at this and smile through it, maybe even see the humor in it.
Yeah.
And it allows you to just keep on going. And
It's
especially
true.
if you have good people around you.
It's true. And
as well.
just on that point, it's all about the journey.
Yeah.
That's why I said the retirement is a psyop thing, is because that caps the journey. There's an end point. If you don't have that end point and you're constantly working, like I said, the pursuit of excellence never stops. If you constantly adopt that mindset, that's the part that you enjoy. Because there's no end goal, the whole thing is the journey. And that's a difficult mindset to adopt. Like I said, the idea is easy. The execution is difficult. But the idea, like you said, is very important. That's the idea and the mindset shift you need to have. To say that it's not the end goal, the money or the whatever your end goal is. That's not the important part. It's what am I going to do, or who's the person I'm going to become in order to achieve all that. That's the main thing.
So, what is the long-term goal and vision for Adnaan?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
52-year-old version of you, 30 years from now.
Well, one thing I'll tell you is I won't stop working. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Right? No, but definitely my main sort of thesis or the way that I sort of live life is I've got to be, number one, delivering value. Number two, pursuing excellence in the pursuit of learning. And number three, I just got to make sure that I'm spending every minute I have, every waking minute, working towards or facilitating my life around that purpose. Mm-hmm. So in terms of business, you'll definitely see a few more businesses, a few more startups. Maybe next time we'll have a conversation about a totally different business, maybe in a new industry, maybe AI, right? Things are changing rapidly. So am I. So is my team. So we got a lot of big things planned. But for now, like I said, I'm just trying to constantly work and build and provide as much value as possible. And hopefully, as a side effect of that, other people are inspired to also do what I'm trying to do.
I love it, man. Well, I support you in your mission. You're wise beyond your years, man.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to see where the future takes you.
Thanks, Zuby.
All right, man. Great to talk.
Pleasure.